Welcome to No Budget, the show for filmmakers with no budget by filmmakers with no budget. I am Milo Dennison, and we've got a few people on today that we're going to have a nice roundabout chat on the subject of Kino, specifically KinoD, the Dublin version of it. So with me, as always, is my most awesome co-host, Claire Milan.
Hello.
We've got Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
And our Kino representatives are Philip Kidd.
Hello.
And Patrick O'Brien.
Hello.
Well, let's start off and just ask the question, like, what exactly is a Kino?
I guess I'll go with that. So basically, a Kino is an event where the idea is to make as many movies as possible. Basically, participants show up and they pitch, shoot, and screen their movie all in one event. So it basically goes through the whole it breaks down the whole making a movie from the start, from pre-production to post-production and the screening. And that's essentially what a Kino is. And it jumbles a load of people together just to make this crazy, fun event. And that's it.
Yeah. How long do they last?
Well, there's usually weekend ones, but what we're doing is a 10-day one. So it's going to be a whole summer one. And it's the big one.
The thing about Kino, like I said, feel free to jump in, anybody, call Claire, Philip, it's an international thing, right? Like there are Kinos in multiple countries and multiple cities, correct?
Yeah, so it started in Canada, in Montreal, I think. The mythos is that it started around 1999. Some crazy people, but it came to Ireland around 2013. But it still goes. I think there's a lot in the UK. It's kind of hard to find out about those ones. There's so many of them. And there's a few around Europe. I think basically every European capital city has one, has a sort of branch of it. And we're trying to kickstart the Dublin one. Yeah, but it's all over the world, really.
Yeah, there hasn't been an international in like 5 years in Dublin. So we're trying to bring it back. And it's like, we need to bring this back. So this is what we're doing. And we're really pushing for this. And we're almost there. It's almost a week away, so
yeah,
can't wait.
So how do you make it an international one? Because you've had a few KinoDs the last.
Well, essentially, the international one is when it's longer than a weekend, and so what happens then is when it's longer than a weekend, it kind of comes more sexy to like international Kino members who want to come over and they want to say, "I want to be in Dublin for a week making movies and just kind of living here." Living in the space, living amongst us and just making movies. And that's all they do. They wake up, they make movies, they go to sleep, they wake up, they make movies. And that's it for the 7 to 10 days. And so,
and is there
that's like essentially why it's an international.
Is there a central organizer, a sort of a portal where you register the KinoD versus Kino Berlin or Kino Rome?
Not necessarily. Like there's a website that kind of covers all the Kinos around the world. But basically, if you go to a Kino and you're from a country that doesn't have a Kino, if you go back to your country and you kind of say, why isn't there a Kino in my country? You can kind of set it up. And once kind of members recognize it, it kind of just becomes the Kino of the place. And that's kind of what happened with KinoD. It was George Hooker and Paul Butler Lennox and Liam McInver. They done a few Kinos in Germany and Italy, France, stuff like that. And so they said, why isn't there one in Dublin? Like, what the hell's going on? And this was back in like 2012, 2013. And so they came back to Dublin and they just said, let's start a Kino. And then German members and Italian members came to the event. And so it kind of became recognized as the kind of premier Kino in Ireland. And that was it. And it's just been going since. So there's not really, you don't have to like write out a tax form or anything. It's not like you're going through any government to like say, hey, I want to organize a Kino. Can I do this, please? It's just a thing that happens and it's,
And it's city based. So, I mean, is there any other in Ireland? Is Dublin the only one?
I think there's been attempts.
The closest equivalent would be the Little Cinema in Galway, which just runs like the monthly challenges, but it is vaguely similar. Like it's a challenge, but Kino just has a sort of particular structure of the pitch, shoot, and screen. I think like the original guys in 2013 just robbed a few ideas from different Kinos, and that's what we've come to know Kino as. But if you go to other Kinos, they have slightly different rules. Everyone does it slightly differently. There's no like strict franchise officer going around saying you must do this and this and this. Like we've interviewed all the some of the original guys who set it up, and there are just weird rules that just came about because people didn't understand German very well and stuff like that. There's all these like funny, like just norms that became established, and we just continue those traditions, which is it's quite funny how they came from nonsense, but it's shaped how we love Kino now or what we do.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes Kino, is that there's not really a set rule when you go to any Kino. You know, it's kind of dependent on the place, and the place kind of informs the Kino more than anything.
That was my experience as well, because I've done a couple of them, and they do seem to, the experience varies depending on like the place and the location and stuff, and just who's there as well, because it's open. You don't have to be a professional filmmaker. You know, you can come in if you're an amateur filmmaker, or if you're an actor, or if you're editor, like you can have different roles with there. And that's kind of a nice thing about it.
To speak to that, sorry, it's, sometimes you get Kinos, we might have a weekend event and there's way more actors than there are sound ops or DOPs or editors. And then you go to another Kino that we run and there'll be way more technicians than there are actors. And so that almost creates a different Kino as well, because when you have way less kind of crew members, you have way less films almost. So you have loads of actors in one movie, and then the next Kino, when you have too many directors and sound ops, you have loads of movies with like one actor just doing a monologue. So it depends.
All starring Aidan O'Sullivan.
Yeah. A mutual friend of ours is Aidan O'Sullivan, who everyone knows, and people probably know him as well out there. Yeah. But he was the one who told me about Kino originally. And I think there was a 5-day one. It was in, I think it's called the Cathedral or somewhere. It was somewhere up there near the Liberties. I think it was 5 or 7 days. I know Philip, both of you actually, Philip and Patrick.
The Backloft, wasn't it?
The Backloft, that was 2016, I think I went to that one. Maybe it was there a few times in 2016. So beside NCAD.
And was that 5 days or 7 days?
We need to put Aidan on commission.
I think it was 7 days, one full week.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't heard about it. And then that was the first one I did. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. And I know I wrote this kind of sketch called The Sting, with Milo was in it, and you filmed it, I think, as well.
I filmed it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was such great crack, because we could use the area, and we found a park nearby we could film in, and then there was these quickies, like punishment things, these you do little quickie, like 60-second films as punishment, and it was such great crack. It was just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So as organized,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Patrick. Now go
ahead. To kind of break down the kind of event into kind of what it actually is. So basically, when people show up on the door, I'll have a speech, and I'll just kind of introduce people to kind of the ideas of Kino and what it is. And then everybody will introduce themselves one by one in the room. So within an hour, you kind of know 50 extra people, just like that. And then we go to a pitching phase. And so whoever wants to stand up on stage and kind of tell people their idea will stand up, and they'll go, I need this many actors, I need this and this is my story, blah, blah, blah. And then the people in the room kind of go, oh, that sounds cool, I want to work on that. And so say there's a sound up in the room, there's a DOP, there's a few actors, and they go, that sounds like a cool project. And then suddenly they just form a team. They go out, start shooting the movie the next day or whatever. We actually don't know what they're actually making, So when it comes to screening time, the day after that, we actually don't know what they've made. So, for me, when I'm hosting it, it can be such a surprise. But that is essentially kind of the breakdown of the moment to moment of what a Kino is, really.
And you know what was great about it? It's just, you get professionals and you get complete newbies. Because we turned up, there was one Kino that I did, and it was during the middle of winter. It was really bad cold snap. It was absolutely freezing. But there was a lovely girl there who was a professional composer. And it was amazing to have her compose music for us. And we've worked with her since. So it's so great to meet people at Kino that you can continue to have a relationship with, and that you'll work with them in the future. And that's what's so surprising about it. Just the whole networking aspect of it.
Yeah, for me, I think that was a big one, because I first went to Kino I think it was that 2013 one or 2014 when I moved to Dublin, and so I didn't know a lot of people. I hadn't really gotten into the film industry yet, and so I went as an actor, and it kind of helped me start to build my network within the city of like other people that I could work with on different projects, and it paid off too. I afterwards, one of the people I met in Kino, he made a short film and was like, hey, he calls me up and he's like, hey, I'm doing this film. Would you be interested in being involved in it? So those connections play out well after the event as well, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think there's two types of people that really benefit from the Kino event. First is like the non-experienced filmmaker, the first-time filmmaker. They don't really know anybody. They don't know what to do. And they kind of go, how do you make a movie? I don't even know how to start. And they come to a Kino event and suddenly they know 30 extra actors, they know a few DOPs, they know an editor, just like that. And they made a movie and they actually pitched it, which is scary enough. Then they actually made it, which is scary enough. And then they screen it, which is even scarier sometimes, So it gets over the complete fear of just making a movie for first-time people, and especially people who maybe, like you, Milo, came to the country. And even more than that, people without any like English or whatever, it's a great like experience for them to just meet people, just to kind of just get a feel for the city. And then I think the other type of person that really benefits from it is the people that are working and stuck in corporate jobs, because they're making schlock that they don't give a shit about, day in, day out. And they kind of come to Kino to let loose. It's almost like they strip off and they just feel free, and I think creatively. So I think those two type of people just like really benefit from our event. So,
and do you have
that's
any
kind of what we're going for.
advice? So, do you have any advice to give filmmakers now, for the Kino?
Well, I think there's plenty of advice you can give, but we wouldn't want to put people in a box. Like, it's really there for you to experiment and let loose and do whatever you really want. My only advice would be to keep it short. Like, the shorter the film is, the less you have to worry about filling that content and shooting all those pages. Like, if you keep it to like 3 pages, then you can go crazy with those 3 pages and you've plenty of time to make them really well or experiment with them. But if you write a 15-page script, like, you've shot yourself in the foot with Kino. It's sort of short and sweet. That's why we emphasize quickies as well. So like, if people don't get around to shooting a pitched film, or they can't find the crew or whatever to shoot their pitched film, which is rare, they can still shoot a quickie, which is like meant to be a 30 to 60 second piece. And sometimes they can be strokes of genius. Like, quickies can be some of the best films. So my advice is just keep it short. Apart from that, just come with an open mind and just come to meet people. Like, just dive in and get involved in as many projects as you physically can. Like my first Kino, I slept in the studio for 3 days out of the 7. And I think I ended up helping on getting credits in 12 films in 7 days or something stupid. I think that's like, you get what you put in kind of thing with Kino. Just the more projects you're involved in, the more people you meet, the more people you work with. And that's what I say. Just like, keep it short and work with get involved as much as possible.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I learned actually before, because I remember one Kino I did, and it was like I had a script, and it was impossible for people to learn. And then the next Kino I did, I just stayed in the studio with the green screen and I got mine done. Another project, the girl had to abandon it because it was too complicated. And she came on board with my project as an editor. So I got it finished, But it's definitely really good advice. Just keep it short, keep it sweet, and keep it simple, and just have a good laugh with that, Don't stress about it.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say, more so than advice. Like, our job is to kind of just help people that are there, So what happens usually is, like, someone will come to us on the Sunday, which is the day of the screen, and say, for example, and they'll go, I have 5 hours to edit a movie. I need a laptop right now. And you're just like, who has a laptop? So I'm running around the space, like, looking for a laptop to give to this person to help them edit their movie. And then I actually end up helping them edit the movie. So it can be that kind of thing. It's rather than advice. It's like, we just try to give them what they need if we can,
You're
Yeah,
like a
because there's
supervisor.
people there. Sorry, Carl. There's people there. Most of the, like you mentioned, editing. Often, if I remember correctly, like people will just sit at a table there with their laptop and edit their film. So you'll see like 4 people, 5 people sitting around their laptops working on their films.
For
Which is great.
hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's nice though, because if you have a question like, how do I do this? You can, like somebody else will probably know how to do that if you're,
Yeah, that's a great learning opportunity. Editing with other people in the same space, that lab space.
Yeah.
That's really good for people to learn off each other.
And it's always very intense, isn't it? That editing phase. I remember, because I didn't know, I learned to edit recently, but before that in Kino, I had to hand over my footage to an editor, and the stress, and there was 6 of them sitting around with headphones like that, and the time was ticking, so the panic is there as well. But it's so exciting to make a film. Like you come out over a weekend or a week, and you could make 3 films or one film, and think about you've made something that didn't exist a few days beforehand. It's just amazing. Like, and that could be the person's first film to ever make. Because it's a hard thing to do when you just the first film that you make yourself. It's a big jumping off a cliff moment. It's not an easy thing to do. But I find with myself, Kino encouraged me to make films, and I think it'll, for most people in Kino, it's going to really encourage them to go on and make more films afterwards as well.
Have you told the local pizzeria to stock up on ingredients? What facilities have you got, like in the venue? Talk about the venue even.
Yeah. So you guys have one coming up in August. So here in a few weeks, which starts what date?
August 5th to the 14th.
August 5th to the 14th. And where's it going to be?
It's going to be in the Market Studios, which is just off of Capel Street,
Okay.
It's just around the corner from Capel Street, basically.
Yeah.
So very central, which is like what we want, because the last 3 events we've had for Kino have been in Tala, which, for a lot of people is just like, what? Like, nobody wants to go to Tala, and I'm from Tala,
So, I mean, with regards to the venue, like what facilities does the venue offer? Apart from rooms, but I mean, do you have editing facilities? Or
I think Patrick knows much more about that. You've actually been there. I haven't been there yet.
Oh, yeah. So I can speak on that. Yeah, so first of all, we have a big sort of meeting room with like whiteboards and chairs and desks and stuff, and people can leave their gear there, and that's just kind of where we facilitate the meetings and the pitching phases and the introductions, so people get to know each other. Then we have like another little offshoot room that will be our like designated editing room. So it's a quiet room, well air conditioned. People just go in, edit. That's it. There's no crazy shooting or anything. We are planning to have like a dedicated green screen corner as well for people if they want to use for their movies. Other than that, that's really it. There's just a kitchen and bathroom. It's quite humble, but we don't really want to encourage people shooting inside the lab. It's more about shooting in the city, because it's our first time back in the city in a long time. So just go out and start shooting stuff. Because the last few times we were in Tala, and we were in this big warehouse that was in kind of the middle of nowhere, even in Tala, and so people couldn't really venture far, and so a lot of people ended up just shooting in the lab, and it was just like every kind of movie ended up looking the same, and you were just like, I'd love to just see more kind of diverse locations.
Lots of background noise of like people like, shut up, we're trying to film.
That was a problem too, because you kept hearing someone screaming or whatever in one take, and we actually got a radio communication. Do you remember that, Phil? I
remember the rain, because there's corrugated iron over that studio. So when it rained, there was one Kino where I think it rained the whole weekend. So every single person's film just said, oh, the background is horrendous. But yeah, we really want to encourage people to go in the city centre, because we spent months since May, I think, April or May, since the last Kino in April. We've just been looking for a city centre location, and we finally found one. Jesus, it took long enough. But you're right beside Capel Street, so you have access to all the food there. Unfortunately, we don't have catering. We have like tea or coffee or something and snacks, but you're right beside Capel Street. You're right in city centre. You have all the best parts of the city to go and film in, and I just encourage everyone to go out there and shoot the city. And you're in. It's a summer Kino as well, so you can use the summer light, like that. Brilliant. That slow sunset and sunrise and that kind of thing. We want beauty shots of the city because we're going to apply So they
So are
cancelled
you
the
ready
funding at
for
some point too.
are you ready for every film to have the Halfpenny Bridge in it?
Oh
Yeah.
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 Halfpenny Bridge, Molly Malone, Trinity, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like I'd like to see all that stuff.
So, in regards to participants, like how many people can participate? Like, at what point does it become too full?
So our limit right now is about 80 to 100, but like we've still got a load of tickets left. So
Okay.
I don't think there'd be a fear of reaching that, to be honest. So I think right now we're close to 50 people. So usually the last week is like the best selling week anyways for most kinos. So if we get another dozen people, that's 60 something people, it's
Yeah, we
that's a
might pick
good
up stuff
kino.
people during the week. So it's 10 days. So I imagine the momentum will build up during that week. So the last session should be huge. And we'll tell everyone at the first session to sort of post as much as they can and share and everything. And we'll share social stuff during the week as well. So it'll pick up momentum as it goes.
Can people do individual sessions? So let's say I can only do like the first session, but I'm working part of the week, so I can't do the middle session. Or is it you sign up for the whole thing?
Yeah, so session 1 is Friday the 5th to Sunday the 7th. So that's the pitching phase and introduction phase to the screening on Sunday the 7th. Then there's Monday the 8th to Wednesday the 10th is the second session. So the pitching phase is on Monday, and then the screening's on Wednesday the 10th. And then Thursday the 11th to Sunday the 14th. So that's the pitching on 11th and then the screening on 14th. So if you want to do one individual session, it's 30 to 35 euro. The first session, 35. And if you want to do all 3 sessions, it's 80 euro.
So you have a choice. You can do either of the 2 weekends, or if you are free on the weekday, you can do the silent session, that middle session as well.
You can pick what you want.
It's meant to be flexible. Yeah, you don't have to come for the whole 10 days at all. That's the main question we get asked.
Yeah, and each session's different. So you mentioned the middle session's a silent session. Is that right? Yeah. So like what's the first session? What's the second session, and what's the third session? Like, how are they different?
Yeah, so the first session is informally just called the Icebreaker. So it's our first international Kino Cabaret session for years. So it's kind of the first big thing. There'll be at least, I think, 15 international people, so from Germany and France and stuff. So a lot of introductions, a lot of people getting to know each other. So it's just called the Icebreaker, and it's only 3 days. So that's our last session. Our last Kino, which was in April, was just a weekend. It was that Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday. So it's just the same as that. It's the same as what people have already experienced this year. The second session is the silent session. So you don't have to. It's not a hard rule, but like we really would prefer people to try this, is to not record any sound with their film. So it's a silent film. And then the idea is that you accompany it when you screen it, it's screened silently. You accompany it with either music or a stage performance or like sound effects that you make organically in the screening space. People have done that before, and it's been amazing. Like I went to one of those, I think in 2016, they had one of those. I think at nearly every Kino I've been to, they've tried to do silent sessions, and they turn it really well. There's been some really experimental stuff made. So there's that, and then on the third session we have some talks as well, just to add to that 4 days. So on Thursday the 11th at 5 p.m. So hopefully we might delay it if people are getting in from work. We have Jade Travers coming in from Screen Ireland. So she's part of the new National Talent Academies. This is a sort of a new Screen Ireland initiative where they have crew hubs. So there's East, West and South to get crews more access to training schemes. So I went to their talk at the Galway Film Plan. I just said, like, could you come over here and represent Screen Ireland at Kino? And they love the idea of Kino. They like really, really want to represent themselves here. So she's going to come at 5 o'clock on the Thursday. Then we have the pitching session on the Thursday. Then Friday, there's another talk by Canon. So there's a guy called Barry Griffin coming in from Canon, and he's going to give a sort of basic cinematography workshop for an hour and talk you through a couple of different bits and pieces just related to Canon. So he is a Canon rep, but he'll talk people through how to use their cameras and stuff like that.
Are you barred?
No Nikons, no. You're barred from any other brand. and then you've another Saturday and Sunday to shoot your film. So the last session is 4 days. But if people aren't available on the Friday, that's okay. It's kind of a half week, half weekend thing. So if you're only available on weekends, you're only missing the Friday, and you can use that to kind of organize and coordinate with people or shoot on Friday night. Like it's just, it's kind of a 4-day session. So that's kind of it. That's the structure.
And if you sign up for one of the earlier sessions, the first or the second session, would you be able to go to one of those talks or workshops if you didn't sign up for the last session?
As far as I'm concerned, you're perfectly fine to come along.
Okay.
Just to get to the pitching session. The pitching session is where the value is. It's where you're meeting people, and that's where the networking really happens. So you're fine to come along to the Screen Ireland talk, but we'll kind of hound you for money after that.
Okay.
And then
I noticed actually on your Facebook site, the quickie was trademarked. Is that right?
Oh, it's just a joke.
Oh, is it?
It's just a joke at this point.
Okay. Oh, no sense of humor. Sorry. Okay.
And where can people go if they want to find out about it?
They can go to facebook.com/KinoD Cabaret. It's just KinoD on Facebook. On Instagram, it's KinoD Cabaret with a K. And what else have we got? We got YouTube, KinoD Cabaret as well.
Yeah, there's a Twitter, but don't go on there. It's pretty useless. Or if you go into eventbrite.com and search KinoD Cabaret or Kino Dublin, our event will come up there. And there's virtually a book, like a Bible length fucking thing of information there. It's all there if you want to read it, or else we have a ton of promo videos featuring me and my voice, plenty of other voices. We've made all the promo videos you could want that explain the whole thing. That's all on our Facebook and YouTube.
And just to say, Kino is Kino, because people are misspelling it, I think. So Kino, Kino.
Which I did in Messenger earlier. Yeah.
It's German for cinema, yeah.
There's also kinocabaret.org, that was the international site. That
lists all the other international events, yeah. So we're actually up there along with the other ones. There aren't as many after the pandemic, but hopefully that list will be more populated as the years go on.
What you find is if like people go to the KinoD and it's their first Kino event, they suddenly get the Kino bug, and then they're like, oh, I want to go to like another event. And it's a good excuse for a holiday as well, because you can be like, I want to go make movies in Germany for a week, and then I'm going to go to Italy, and then I'm going to go to Canada and like Japan. There's one in like Japan and stuff. So like it's a real good excuse for like filmmakers to just do holidays, you know?
Yeah.
So, our last Kino wasn't international, but we did have a family come over from Germany, and we had a guy, I don't know if he flew over specifically for it, but he was from Singapore, which is pretty mad. And it wasn't even labeled an international one. So this time we've got a good few other people, and they need places to stay. That's a big thing to say. We've got about 5 people who need accommodations. So 2 of them are staying with me. You're going to be sleeping down there. And there's a few others that need spaces. So a couch, floor space, anything. When I went to a Kino in Geneva, I just stayed on someone's couch for 2 weeks, and I was perfectly happy because I wasn't sleeping. I just went and made films the whole time. So yeah, any accommodation that people can offer is greatly appreciated.
You don't really sleep at Kino events. You just sort of like, you're like waking the whole time. You know, you don't really have a chance to sleep if you're like so ingrained in it, I think, because you're pitching it, you might act and you might shoot something, then you're editing something. So you don't really ever have the time. The most you'll get is like 3-4 hours sleep every day, if even.
Yeah,
you're lucky.
You'll love it.
Get that.
That's the thing. You don't know. I mean, you're tired and you take your sleep, but you're so busy having fun doing it that you don't care. You don't notice it.
Yeah, it's just pure adrenaline, I think. And that's why I keep doing it, you know?
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. All right. Well, we're just about out of time. So any last minute additions about Kino that you feel people need to know about before we go? Silence is golden, as they say.
Make movies, not excuses.
Yeah, make movies, not excuses, and film up.
The Kino motto. Well, great, guys. I'm sure the event this year is going to be fantastic. And thanks a lot for taking on the mantle of reviving it in Dublin. So it is absolutely a worthwhile event, and people should participate it as much as they can.
Thank you for supporting us and having us on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes. It's brilliant. Make films, not excuses. Yay.
There we go.